welcome to all participants. This is the first webinar in the MOOC that you are attending on urban forestry to present the innovative case studies on urban forestries that we collect during the Erasmus Plus project Uforest, in which this MOOC has been developed. This is a webinar, so to interact with us, you can use the chat, and at the end, the question and answer. If you'd like to speak and talk with us lively, just raise your hands and we give you the floor and open the microphone so you can pose your question or reflection. So the structure of today's meeting will be an introduction on what we hope give you an introduction of the Uforest project, and then the two experts here with us will introduce and tell the story about the innovative projects on urban forestry. And at the end, there will be a question and answer session for ask curiosity or explore, deepen some issue you may interest you in particular. So I leave the floor to Sofia Paoli for introducing the project.
Thank you, Alessandra. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm Sofia Paoli from Politecnico di Milano, and I'm going to briefly present you the Uforest project and specifically the training program that we are developing. So Uforest is a project promoted by ETSAF and ETIFOR in partnership with 4 different companies, 4 universities, 2 research and networking organizations. So we all know that urban forest represents a very efficient tool to adapt and to mitigate the negative effects of climate change. However, we understand and we know that cities are often struggling to implement the solutions. And so we started asking ourselves why. And we understood that we identified 2 main challenges. The first one is that the cities are struggling with high related costs related to urban forestry, the need for long-term citizens engagement, and the lack of capacity of the institutions. And the second one, which is the one that focusing my short presentation, is about the lack of prepared practitioners. So as Uforest, we started analyzing researches, best practices, and we developed a very high quality learning material and some specifically tailored urban forestry training. So as you know, our courses are different. The one that you are doing now is the MOOC. So the first one is Nature in the City, but then we have some more that I will very shortly introduce you now. So in about a month, we will start the second course, which is Greening Your City, and it's a specialized course for students of the 4 partner universities, so Politecnico, UAB, Transylvanian University of Brasov, and Trinity College Dublin. And this will be limited to 150 participants. Then after that, we will also have an innovation program, which is a specialized course of 2 weeks in person. This will be held in Milan and in Barcelona, and it will be just for 20 students. This is the part for the students, but we are also developing some practitioner workshops that will be organized and in the next month. So I strongly suggest all of you to check on our website all these different trainings that we are developing, and I invite you also to write us through the website in order to have more information and to participate to the Uforest project. So today's webinar is about 2 different projects. These are 2 very innovative urban forestry initiatives that are going on now in Europe. The first one will be presented by Federico Pinato, and it's the project WOWNATURE, powered by ETIFOR. And the second one is Forestami, which is a case study from the city of Milan in Italy, and it will be presented by Chiara Pastore from Politecnico di Milano. So just to break the ice now, you will see Paul appearing on your screen with these two different questions. And this is all from me. I hope you will enjoy the webinar and that you will check our website for the next steps of the project. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sofia. As Sofia just said, we want to know you a little bit better. So if you go to this, share down the screen. If you go to the link I've shared in WooClap, can you confirm that you will see? Okay, you can go click directly on the link or go on wooclap.com and add Uforest as event code. So if you go there, now you should see the first question about your current employment status. We'll see that some reply is arriving. Because as you know, MOOC are open to anyone interested, even if it's focusing on university students, but anyone can join it and participate. So it's interesting to know who. Okay, there is some more people missing, but we can see that employed people are the majority of you today. Okay. Okay, I will stop and go forward. So employed and some students. And then if you can add at least 1 hour of interest of work. Great, the tag now is going on. Okay. Urban planning seems to be forestry. Great. Urban planning seems to be the most selected. Okay, great, thank you. We see that there are a lot of different interests, or at least a field of expertise. So we hope that we are quite sure that these case studies will be quite interesting and will stimulate some question at the end. So thank you for joining this active session, and I will leave the floor to Federico.
Thank you, Alessandra. Let me quickly share my screen. Okay, and put up the presentation. Okay, can you see that? Okay.
Yes.
So thank you and welcome everyone, also from my side. My name is Federico and my surname is Pinato, and I'm the program coordinator of WOWNATURE, which is an initiative by ETIFOR. So ETIFOR is the company. I will say a few words about it later on, where I'm currently working. So the case study I will present today is called WOWNATURE, was born in 2018 and is still ongoing. It was born in the Veneto region in Italy, but then it quickly expanded in other Italian regions. So Lombardy, the region of Milan, Trentino Alto Adige, Friuli Venezia Giulia, Tuscany, and Sicily, and also in other countries for different continents, so Vietnam, Burkina Faso, Brazil, and Gaza. So if I have to summarize the level of implementation of the initiative, I would say it's fully implemented. And the main project partners, as we will see later on, are both private companies and NGOs and public bodies, foundations, and citizens. The main objective of the initiative, we will see more in detail, is to essentially grow new trees and to protect existing forests. So before getting started, another quick ice breaking. So I would like to know, if you had to convince a person or a company to pay some money to plant and grow new trees or to protect existing forests, how would you do it? Why should they do it? So try to convince them with a few words and type it in the chat. I'm not sure I can see the chat though. While I'm presenting, but maybe...
No, I monitor it, but I think that all of them are thinking right now because there is no messages.
Okay, we can wait a couple of minutes. If you have any clue, any idea, it's interesting for me also to know. Yeah,
Federico, can you see the Q&A?
The chat
session?
is disabled.
Oh.
The chat is disabled. Okay, maybe we can.
Thank you, Vivian. Someone already written something in the Q&A session.
So the chat is now activated.
Okay.
It's not possible to write in the chat.
Okay, maybe we can use the Q&A session.
Thank you. We are. We are working to activate it. Now should work. Can someone try to? Oh, great.
Okay, is there any answer? Maria Chiara, Alessandra, can you please read it?
Yes,
because I can see that.
The one message, the best way is with the education.
Mm-hmm.
Someone, Eugenia, but I didn't write EESS, but I don't know.
I can read. The best way is with education. Okay. Makes people happy. I would make the case for health benefits of trees. There is no future without trees. Climate change. This is a good way to create new concepts with other good companies or persons. Highlighting the benefits trees provide. Good for health. Show them the benefits of planting trees. If you don't pay for trees, you'll pay for it later anyway. Collective damage. It's free and it's fun. It helps your health. Explains the problem. Mental health, ecosystem services. We should explain the importance of new trees. Should be grown or protect for healthy life and next generations. Invest in your future oxygen. Treescapes can clean the city pollution, easy to maintain them, healthy for you. Be outlining the long-term incentives that would be returned, systemic interdependence. By asking how long can you breathe without oxygen, aesthetics and ecological benefits, some action should be taken into, you should say that stop somehow. Otherwise, I mean.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think I
just go to it's 6 now. So some action should be taken by government, municipality, not by single persons. Try to translate the benefit of trees, avoid environmental disaster, beautiful cities, non-monetary aspect. Great if you want to stay competitive because it's a great greenwashing argument. Wow. If you want a future for the next generation, you must make your contribution.
Okay, I think, okay. Thank you, Maria Chiara. I see at least 3 or 4 clusters. One underlines the importance of education and information, I would say. So just providing information about the benefits of planting trees. I see another cluster which is more related to the context we are living in, which is the one of the climate crisis. And also, let's say that is no longer a choice, right? Either we take action now or we pay the consequences now and later. And then I see a third cluster, which is about the personal experience and the feeling that the person can get from planting a tree. So I thank you. I thank everyone who contributed to this quick ice breaking, very stimulating clues and tips. So we are ready now to move to the next slide. Okay. Just a moment. Okay, so before telling the story of WOWNATURE, I think it's more important to focus on why was the initiative launched. And essentially, it has been partly mentioned by your answer to our quick quiz. And the main reason is because it's no longer climate change, but it's a climate crisis. So it's no longer a change without consequences for us, but we are already suffering the consequences that are even more severe than we would expect, and that are coming even more early than we could expect in the first moment. Then, because it's not only a climate crisis, right? We are also facing, for instance, a biodiversity crisis and some more general ecological crisis. And we know that trees can have benefits in more ecosystem services. They can provide more benefits than just capturing carbon. And because trees and forests are at the same time a victim of the climate crisis because they are facing new threats. Just think about the droughts, the forest fires, and so on, but also a solution in the sense that they can help mitigate the effects of climate change, for instance, the heat island in the cities and so on. But I would like to underline it several times, they cannot be the only solution. We cannot rely just on trees to fight the climate crisis. We also need to act in other dimensions, such as the energy supply, the transportation, and so on. So considering all these first 3 points, we definitely need to increase the funding towards forests. And so that was the main reason why WOWNATURE was born. And also because at a personal level, many of us in ETIFOR were tired of seeing the land around us abandoned, damaged, or not fully valued. So these were the reasons why WOWNATURE was launched. But to understand what is WOWNATURE, I think it's better to first get to meet ETIFOR. So ETIFOR is the company that launched the initiative WOWNATURE. And ETIFOR is a spin-off company of the University of Padova that works every day with a mission. And the mission is to try to restore the balance between people and nature. And how we try to do it is by valuing nature, giving the right value to nature, and applying and using an approach which is based on science, innovation, and good governance. So I think now we are ready to focus a little bit more on WOWNATURE, on what is it. So essentially, WOWNATURE is one of the tools used by ETIFOR to carry out its mission, so to try to restore the balance between people and nature. And is essentially a website that you can reach by typing www.wownature.eu that allows anyone, so people, associations, companies, and so on, to do his or her part by contributing to plant and grow new trees or to protect existing forests of ecosystems. So you can do essentially 2 things on WOWNATURE: plant new trees. We prefer to speak about growing new trees, just to underline that you cannot simply plant it and abandon it, but you also need to maintain it and take care of it in the following years. Or you can protect existing trees from the increasing threats they are facing, such as droughts, forest fires, and so on. So if I had to tell the story of WOWNATURE, as I said before, WOWNATURE was born in 2018. I think it's essential to understand what happened before WOWNATURE was launched. So from 2011 and 2018, ETIFOR developed a lot of projects related to the forestry sector. I think the main one, the most interesting one, is Bosco Limite, which was the first forest planted by ETIFOR, well, designed and planted by ETIFOR by raising funds from private companies and peoples and so on. So you can see in the picture, it was at 2.5 hectares of land used for agricultural purposes that was planted in 2012. And this is more or less how the forest looks like today. Actually, is a couple of years ago. It's not simply a forest, and this is also interesting, it's a forest infiltration area. So a forest that is that has actually some channels that allows the infiltration of water in the aquifer. So this forest actually produces clean water for the local community. And we are actually infiltrating about 1 million cubic meter of water every year. So after some years of experience with projects like Bosco Limite or similar, we realized that there was a huge interest in this topic, and people really wanted to do their part, and also organizations. So in 2018, also thanks to the seed fund by the municipality of Padova, the city where our company is located, we developed the version 1, let's say, of the website to allow citizens and companies to adopt their trees, so to pay some money for these trees to be planted. And actually, just a couple of days before the launch of the website, a huge meteorological event happened in Italy. It's called the Storm Vaia, that felled like thousands and thousands of trees. So we said, okay, we have a tool that was initially thought to plant 8 new urban forests in Padova, but why shouldn't we use it also to restore the damage that the climate crisis brought to our mountains? So in 2018, we published our first projects, the urban forest for Padova, and also the reforestation for the mountain forest in the Alps. And we did the first, let's say, planting events. So here we can already notice that the suggestion that some of you made at the beginning, so the experience, the feeling you can get when planting a tree is something important that we also recognize as important, and we want to give to our clients and partners. In 2020, 2021, there was the COVID pandemic. So we needed to find new strategies of engagement. So we couldn't invite people to plant their trees anymore in person. So we started making some live streaming of the tree planting, so that they knew that the project was actually being developed and was continuing. And we tried to do it in a fun way. So in this case, for instance, we were in Alta Badia, in the Dolomites, and we delivered the first 3 of the reforestation projects via paraglide, so flying. We brought the trees from the sky. Or in another case, from another project area in Sicily, we organized a live concert, a concert spread via Facebook, in which the duration of the concert was depending on the number of trees that were adopted by companies and people. So when people knew it, they started adopting a lot because they wanted the concert to last more. And so we essentially were able to plant the whole area, and at the same time to provide an entertainment for the people supporting the project. In 2021 and 2022, we expanded a little bit, both at the national level by creating BioClima, which was essentially a public-private partnership, so where the public regional authorities put a part of the money needed to make reforestation and forest protection, and where the remaining part was to be brought by the private sector, so by people and private organizations. In this way, we were able to scale up and to multiply the positive effects of the contribution of people and companies. And we also started to develop some projects abroad to respond to address and respond the demand of our clients that also wanted to operate abroad and not only in Italy. And this was possible also, thanks to the main partners and clients we had in this period. But what is important to notice is that you can't really speak with all these partners and clients if you don't offer like a broader CSR service and assistance, in the sense that, yes, they want to plant trees, but they also want to know how they can integrate it within their CSR strategies, corporate social responsibility strategies, or policies or programs. So we also integrate it with other business programs offered, let's say, other services offered by ETIFOR, the company that launched the WOWNATURE initiative, and we integrate it. So at the end, in those 4 or 5 years since the initiative was launched, we were able to contribute to the planting and maintenance of more than 200,000 trees in more than 100 areas of intervention. We raised funds from more than 14,000 citizens, so users that through the website adopted their trees. And we involved more than 500 partners, so companies, associations, and so on. We had more than 400 mentions on media, so televisions, newspapers, and radio. Not because we paid to be on the newspaper, but because it's an interesting thing, and people like to read about it, like to hear about it. So it was a choice by the newspaper and television to speak about what we were doing. In the end, we have been working in 4 continents and in 5 countries that were the countries I mentioned in the introduction. So about the relevance of the project, I think that we should never forget the impacts that these projects are delivering to the social, so to the community, to the environment, and also from the economic point of view. So as regards to the social impacts, we always try to involve local professionals and organizations. So when we have to plant trees, we, for instance, look for local partners that are often cooperatives, so also giving work to people with some kind of disadvantages. We always try to make an empowerment of local communities and to help local communities to develop new competencies. So, for instance, we have a project in Burkina Faso where we plant trees like baobab, moringa, karité, but we also try to learn together with the local communities how to transform the fruits of the trees and how to sell them all over the world. In order to do that, of course, a strong collaboration among different professional and sectors is needed and is what we always try to favor. And another social impact is the awareness raising function. So when we make this project and explain the importance of trees, we also inform the general public and the people out there. There are the ecological impacts that are mainly related to restoration or conservation of important habitats, such as also Natura 2000 habitats, which are the protected areas in Europe and related species that live in those habitats. We always try to maximize, let's say, a broad range of ecosystem services, such as the example of water infiltration in Bosco Limite. So trying to maximize the different benefits, also the ecological level that the forest can provide. And there are also the economic impacts. So essentially what we are doing is raising funds for responsible forest management and for the valorization of ecosystem services, which is one of the things you have to do if you really want people to protect and improve nature around us. But this is not an easy task, so we encountered a lot of challenges. First of all, the transdisciplinarity is a challenge because you have to bring together foresters, urban planners, communicators, and people in the marketing sectors, in the IT sectors, because actually the website is actually an e-commerce. You need to be able to manage complex projects, so also management is a skill required. And also you need to manage all the aspects related to administration. And it is not easy to bring all these people and professionals together and to ask them to speak the same language. So I'm not talking about Italian or English or so on, but really the sectoral language. So when you're a forester and you speak with your communication colleagues, you have to simplify the messages to let them understand, not to use too many technical words, because otherwise they will not understand and be able to communicate. We also found that sometimes people, like the general public, have an idyllic and non-expert view of nature, or they have unrealistic expectations. What do I mean when I say these things? Well, essentially, the non-expert view on nature can be summarized by the example you see on the right. So we planted some trees in the mountains and then snow came and people were really worried. What about our trees? They are covered under 2 meters of snow. What is happening? They will die and so on. But actually the snow is good for the plants because it keeps them safe, actually. So we learned how to, we learned that it's better to anticipate these doubts by the general public and explain them, as we did in this Instagram post on the right, why the snow, for instance, is good for the plants. Or they have unrealistic expectations in the sense that they adopt the trees via the website, then they come to the planting event and they expect the tree to be already 3 meters high. But this is not how it works. The trees are small at the beginning, and we explain this to people. We explain that it's better for them to adapt to the new soil and so on. But you need to take this into account if you are thinking about launching an initiative in this sector. Also, the uncertainty that is related to nature, and more than that, also to the climate crisis. So we saw it in Italy and in Europe this summer with a severe drought that actually killed part of the plants we planted. But fortunately, we always account for these uncertainties. So you have to save some resources in order to fix the situation if something happens. So this is something you should take into account if you want to undertake an activity in a sector related to nature. And then another challenge for us is to grow, because we need to grow. We want to grow because we want to plant more trees and we want to see a better planet around us. But how can we do it without letting anyone behind? And by anyone, I mean small-scale forest managers. What I mean is that it's easy to grow if you only partner with big companies that are able to plant thousands and thousands of trees each year. But how can you also support the small one, the small-scale farmers? So this is a challenge. It sometimes means higher costs to carry out the project, but this is very important for us, and we always try to keep a balance between larger companies and small forest managers. And also another challenge is to keep the bar high in terms of quality of the project, and that we always try to ensure with the FSC certification, for instance, which is this logo you can see on the screen, which is essentially a standard for responsible forest management. It means that you can comply with the requirements of the standards, with the rules of the games. You can also obtain the label and approve. There's someone that checks that you are actually managing the forest in a good way from the economic, environmental, and social point of view. And we always try to include also the university when we develop projects in order to have a high scientific inputs and level and when we develop the projects, in order to be sure to plant the right trees in the right place and so on. It's not easy, but we always try to do it. Transdisciplinarity, one of the first challenges I mentioned, is, as I said, a challenge, but also a crucial resource. Why is it a challenge? I would like to say a few more words about it. Essentially, because when you are managing people that have different backgrounds and skills, you need more contamination. So you need to plan for internal training, where the foresters speak with the communicators and the marketers, where the marketers, vice versa, speaks with the foresters, with the with the more commercial stuff, for instance. So you need to plan for touch points and moments for knowledge transfer between different, let's say, sectors. In our company, we do it with periodic plenary updates. So the whole team comes together and they discuss, they train each other, they exchange knowledge, and we do it also with constant training, internal training. This is an investment, so you need to plan some time, and planning time has a cost, but it's not a cost, it's an investment, because then it comes back in terms of better quality of the project, better communication of the project, and so on. Then you always have to try to find a balance between the sectoral processes and workflow. Of course, our forester colleagues will be quicker and faster if they can work just dealing with the forestry related activities, and intersectoral coordination. So yes, foresters must be able to develop the project from a forestry point of view, but there must be also coordination, for instance, with the communication team about how to communicate this project and so on. We do it in our company with structured knowledge transfer processes. So we planned for each new project that we open from the forestry point of view. We ask our colleagues to compile, to fill in a technical fact sheets with a simplified language in order to be able to understand and communicate it properly also to people that are not technicians in those projects. Plus meeting, plus we call it WOW for Dummies. So it's like 15 minutes every week in which we explain a topic in simple words for the other colleagues to understand. And then another fundamental part is the skills and human resources mapping to understand which skills and which human resources are needed and are not present currently, and planning accordingly. So more or less, I think I'm right at the 29 minutes out of 30 that was planned for my presentation. I hope it was more or less clear, but I'm here to answer some questions or any doubt. So thank you for your attention. And if you want to follow us on social media, you can look for WOWNATURE and you can find us.
Thanks very much, Federico. I suggest that to move the session, question session for you right now, because we already have 4 questions that our participant pose you. I will read them aloud so they can remain in the recordings. So for Mario, he asked, is it quite unusual, the forest shape? It was chosen for some reason. How was evaluated the border effects?
Yes, so in Italy, we have this is an issue in Italy in the forestry sector, which is land fragmentation. So in Italy, typically the land was fragmented into different properties. So that was the land we had available. The owner only owned those 2.5 hectares. So we had we couldn't plant more in this situation. About the edge effect, we of course considered we considered it and we adapted the choice of the species accordingly. So we prefer to put some shrubs in the edge and some, let's say, more, climax trees in the middle of the forest, for instance.
Okay, then the second question was from Edward about the funding. To what extent did the municipalities expand the budgets and capacities to meet the challenges?
Okay, I'm not sure about the information that the person that Edward wanted to have, but I'll try my best. Well, we are seeing from municipalities an increasing effort in this sense, in the sense that they perceive the increasing demand from local populations, so they are willing to invest in it. So we saw, of course, it's very different. Some municipalities are doing it, others are not doing it, but we had some positive feedbacks and experiences with municipalities that are actually investing quite significant amounts of money and also time and capabilities to develop urban and peri-urban reforestation and afforestation projects.
Okay, thank you, Federico. Edward, if you want to add something, just please use the Q&A or the chat. The third question comes from Vivienne. You planted trees only locally?
No, the answer is no. We started locally because, of course, it was easier to manage. It was easier also. We had a wider network locally and so on, but we also plant abroad and also in other continents. So at the moment we have, for instance, a project in Vietnam, a project in Burkina Faso, and so on. So the answer is no, we are expanding and we would like to do it because the whole world needs more trees, essentially.
Okay, great. Then Joshua, it is an extensive planting mainly on public or private land. What type of monitoring program do you have to manage or ensure trees survival through the first 5 years?
Okay, so we work both on public and private land. It depends on the situation, but where there is a landowner, even if it's private or public, that needs support, we try to give him support, right? Also because it doesn't matter who owns the land, the benefits that the trees provide are global in some cases, or at a regional scale and so on. So we work with both private and public owners. And the second part of the question was about the monitoring. Okay, yes, we have
in the first 5 years.
Yes, we have an internal monitoring plan for each of the areas where we work. We plan a budget for monitoring specifically and for planting the trees where some trees, for instance, die in the first years. We plant them again. And we have a dedicated budget for it. And we also do a lot of monitoring for the FSC certification. So many of our projects, we always try to bring them to the FSC certification, which requires also some audits from an external auditors that comes and check whether the activities are successful or not. So this is more or less what we do.
Okay, Bogdan, sorry if my pronunciation is not very good. What should be the level of involvement of public institutions in these projects?
Well, we always try to involve them. This is part of the, a step back. When I presented the ETIFOR, I said we always try to value nature with an approach which is based on science, innovation, and governance. And governance means improving the way we make decisions, means consulting stakeholders, means being inclusive and listening to the needs of different stakeholders. So we always try to involve and make the projects in partnership with local municipalities and authorities. So we essentially listen to them in a first moment when we are about to design the project, and we always try to also to engage with them, to make them help us in promoting the project. We invite them. We always try to work together with them.
Okay, Remy asked, did you have a precise criterion selection to choose which company was participating?
Yes, in the sense that we are very much aware of the risk of greenwashing, and we absolutely want to avoid greenwashing. So we have a screening when companies come and ask to join our initiative. To be honest, we said no to some companies because they didn't align with our values, and we didn't think the initiative was part of a wider plan that was needed in that situation.
Okay, Federico, the question was another part of the question. There is a real threat of such a project being used as a greenwashing argument for companies which don't want to do anything else than planting trees.
Yes, of course, this is a risk, but for this reason we have a very careful screening before accepting to work with other companies, before accepting them to become sponsor of our projects. And also it depends on what the company wants to claim and why they're doing, essentially. So if companies are supporting forestry projects for other purposes like compensation and not simply to do a good action, then there must be an approach that also includes measurements of impacts, that includes reduction of impacts before working with forests and so on. And there must be, of course, third-party certification and so on for the benefits obtained with the forestry projects.
Okay, there are a lot of questions. How is monitoring provided? Frequency of methodology, technology?
Well, it depends on a case-by-case approach, in the sense that in some cases, the forest owners are also, let's say, the forest managers. So they also carry out the activities of planting and monitoring and so on, and we require them to transmit us the results of this monitoring and so on. In other cases, the forest owner doesn't have the capacity of doing that, so it's us with other cooperatives and so on that do the job. We try to do it at least biannually, so 2 times per year, which is the minimum, but in practice is way more. I would say it's constant. It's constant, and we do it. Well, it's actually not me that do that. My colleagues, my forester colleagues, have some standardized methodologies that we developed internally, but not only internally, because some of the results of this monitoring are also used for the FSC certification and for the verification of positive impacts delivered by the projects. I hope the answer was quite clear enough.
Yeah, there was another question, probably part of this is you already replied before. What are the plans for maintenance and caring for the trees? If it is, are they also included in the provided budget?
Yes, they are included in the provided budget. And this is something we also always stress. So maybe you noticed that in our website, we don't speak about planting trees. We speak about growing trees, because in our opinion, growing is a word that includes the planting, but planting is just the first step. Then there is the maintenance and so on. In the price of the trees that we offer to clients via the websites or to companies is also included the maintenance. Then the intensity of the maintenance varies depending on the situation. So if you are in a urban context, maintenance is usually more, let's say, intense. In mountain environment, for instance, is less intense. But essentially, the price paid by the client has been decided in order to have the resources needed for maintenance. Yes.
Okay, Vivian asks, how do you make sure no land grabbing is happening while finding the areas to plant trees?
Yes, essentially it's part of the governance approach that ETIFOR always adopts. So we try to listen not only to the owners, for instance, but also to the other stakeholders. So we make also a stakeholder mapping and consultation before. We try to listen to the others as well to understand whether there is any kind of issue. And then another, let's say, warranty of quality is given by the FSC certification. So the FSC certification really requires you to make this kind of stakeholder consultations and to bring evidences of this and so on.
How to protect the perpetuity of these amazing initiatives?
Well, I would say, well, thank you for the compliment, for the amazing words. I would say by supporting it if you want. So if you want, you can adopt a tree, and if you I don't know, want to come to Italy to plant it in person, you can. And also by spreading the news, like letting other people out there know that there is this initiative and that they can be part of it and support it.
Okay, probably as we are quite, there is other questions, so, but the time is going through. So what I propose is to, I take care of these questions. So Federico, if we have time, we can try to reply at the end after Maria Chiara presentation, or otherwise I can, if you can, I can ask you, I will ask you to give some replies later in through email, so we can share with all of them. Thank you for all the questions. You see, I was quite sure that would be a lot of participation. So I leave the floor to Maria Chiara.
Thank you. I'm sharing my screen. Do you see it, right? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I will try to be as consistent as Federico. My name is Maria Chiara Pastore. I'm from Politecnico di Milano, and I'm happy to present this case, and I really hope you will find some relevant information for your study. So FORESTAMI is a project that started in more or less as Federico in 2019. It has an end, which is 2030. And then we will see in 2030 what will it be. It is in the metropolitan area of Milan with some project partners, which are Comune di Milano, Città Metropolitana di Milano, Parco Nord Milano, Parco Agricolo Sud Milano, ERSAF, Fondazione di Comunità. And we have a main goal, which is to plant 3 million trees within the metropolitan area of Milan by 2030, or to increase the tree canopy cover by 5% by 2030. So I would try and use the same quiz, and I would ask you to put in the chat the answering to a simple question. Planting tree is so important. So why don't we have so many trees in our cities? So what is the challenge behind having trees in our city? So what impedes us to plant trees? What is for you the main challenge in relation to that? And I will, no, I cannot, okay, maybe I can see that. Yes, I think I can see the chat like this. So the urgent question is why don't we have trees? Why we are not planting as we need, as many trees as we need? We are so greedy and we see only money. Cars are putting too much pressure on our urban trees. Cars are considered more important. Conflicting land uses and lack of appreciation for the trees. There is no more public area where to plant, lack of growing places because of cables, public spaces are inundated by traffic, drought issues. People mostly see only the advantages and don't want trees, space, where can they go? Greatest challenge is stop the soil cementing, space availability and challenge to manage the tree, irrigation, etc. The root of the trees may destroy built-up area, lack of education on benefit of trees. Private landowners have different priorities for the land, fear of crime sometimes, short-term benefits, mindset. Okay, I think it's already quite a great number of challenges, because I think the lack of capacity at municipality, so I will go back to full screen. So one of the greatest challenges that we have, it's actually, and I think that Federico can share this, it's where to plant. So one of the pressing questions, particularly if we look at our cities, is where to plant. And of course, we don't just need the right place or a space, we need the right place for the right trees. But some of the challenges that you wrote are so relevant. So, and then I would say one is for sure the land use, the existing land use. So it's very hard from urban issues to change the land use. So if you have an agricultural field, to having trees make some issues. If you have a parking lot, to transform it into permeable soils, make it an issue because of permeable, because of the standard that we have, at least in Italy, whether this project is implemented. But also is a mindset. So for us, trees are a challenge, and some of you have already said that trees are roots of the trees are causing problems. But in general, these services sometimes are outnumbering in our minds the services and the ecosystem services that trees are providing. So we really need to work in different directions. So we know from far that we need trees, but then the actual implementation of it's already a challenge. So, and it is a challenge that we are facing during our work. So the planting trees is to involve the citizens, association, public and private companies to contribute with actions, and also to raise awareness of the values of trees and urban forestation as an essential contribution to the well-being of cities. Okay. So I structured the presentation with four main subjects, in whether I will see and discuss what we are doing, why the project is relevant, what are the challenges that encounter, and the transdisciplinarity within these four elements. So the first thing is, when we started this process, we had to understand which are actually the areas that we need to tackle. So we worked on permeable and impermeable surfaces. We worked on the temperatures to understand which are the area which is most urgent to work on in relation to urban Thailand, to the potential runoff, very much in relation also to permeable and impermeable surfaces. And we estimated the tree canopy cover in 2018 in order to understand which are the, where is the existing tree canopies, so where are the trees, and where we need to work with the trees. Then we try to understand the potential. So in terms of understanding which are the areas that can be transformed, not just in terms of space, but in terms of tackling very specific areas for us, but also for the stakeholders that we need to discuss with. So when and this is already a challenge that I would like to highlight to you. So when discussing to the different people and to propose to have this kind of project, you say, do you have areas for urban forestry? Urban forestry is still far in our mind. So the answer is commonly no, or what is urban forestry? But when you say, do you have maybe a cycle path, or are you planning to have, if you are a municipality, you are planning to have a cycle path, and do you want to have trees together with the cycle path? Usually the answer is yes. So again, we still need to have in our mind and in our the typologies that we see, that we all discuss, they really need to stick at the moment to a reality that it is a reality that we recognize. And this is the areas of interest in particular are the areas that helped us and are helping us to recognize which are the spaces that trees can be, where trees can be put. And then we worked on a map, which is also an interactive map in which all these areas are clearly recognized. So the light green spaces are the spaces in which we can potentially plant trees, also to make the case and provide some answer to the fact that we can plant trees. And in the metropolitan area of Milan, we have space for the trees. Mapping the priority and potential is not an answer, it's a starting point. But if we need to organize and to provide the actual and physical space for the tree, we need to discuss with the people, with the owner of the land, and with the people who really want to make the change. And so we have a database here at Politecnico di Milano in which we archive and provide information on whether these actual space are made available. So we are collecting all the available space. This is done through the engagement of the municipalities. In the Città Metropolitana of Milan, we have 133 municipalities. This means that we are discussing with them. We sign memorandum of understandings for each of the municipalities, and the memorandum of understanding is an official document in which the municipalities are signing this document in Consiglio Municipale, which is Consiglio Comunale, which is the official place in which these decisions are ratified. And then we have specific lands and available for FORESTAMI, and after this commitment we finalize the project. So these are some of the projects that we do. For instance, we have this area in the Comune di Canegrate. We define for each of the specific area which kind of design and process we need, how many spaces, how many trees. This design comes, so I show you some of the example of the different kind of spaces we enlist. So each, you see, AC is the database to recognize the specific land we have. We have the typology, we have the project. Each of the project is designed by Parco Nord, Parco Agricolo Sud Milano, ERSAF, which are our partners, and this is done in collaboration of the social cooperatives, which also have a memorandum of understanding with FORESTAMI, and together with them we do the design, plantation, and maintenance of the project. And so we plant as an outcome of this, and then we maintain the tree plantation for 5 years. This is very important element, because I already told you, so we map the priority, we map the potential, we map the actual availability, and then we have this whole discussion with all the stakeholders, because the planting of the trees, it's not an individual activity, it's a collaborative activity. So we have municipalities, we have technicians, we have cooperatives working together. We have the people which are helping us in the plantation campaign. And this comes to the fourth element of the discussion, which is the dissemination and engagement. Why it is so relevant? Because we see many times that if we don't provide sound information on why it is so relevant to plant trees, to maintain the tree, why we are doing this, we would not go very far in our project, because we really need to have people engaged in these initiatives. It's not just FORESTAMI. I think that Federico would totally agree that if we don't collectively make this effort in changing our mindset, in understanding that if you have a parking lot, or if you have a tree, you would always choose for a tree instead of a parking lot, because that is our future, not the parking lot. So we put a lot of effort in making people understand why we are doing this. So we have a website in which we provided the information that we had at the scientific level in a kind of a more friendly environment, such as the website is. So to have this information on the urban heat island, on the water runoff, on the potential, which is you can go very. So you can zoom in to where you live and see how your neighborhood also can change from the potential point of view. And then we do a brand awareness campaign to raise, of course, the money, but also to the important cause is to make people know that urban forest is relevant. So we have, for instance, an advertising campaign on the benefits of urban forestry in Italian. Of course, it will grow and will go, and we will be able to breathe again. We have a school, FORESTAMI, in which we work with students. And last year we launched this campaign called Custodiscimi. So we gave 2,500 small trees to citizens who asked to be custodians. They took care of these small trees for 8 months, and then they gave us the trees back. And then we had plantation campaign last November and December. That was relevant because we really want to push the idea that trees are not green, but trees are a species. So we gave not a tree or not a green thing, but we gave a quercus, we gave a cherry tree. So we gave the name of the tree, we gave explanation of the species of the tree. There was a person online who was helping the different custodians with the different issues. So they were providing the pictures of the trees which are possibly having troubles, and then the agronomist was answering online. He received an enormous amount of email, and this was a very relevant exchange for us to make people understand that we really need, and that also trees are living. It's a living species, and they need water, they need somebody who takes care of them, and that is a lot of effort. So I would like to finish by saying that one of the major issues and challenges that we face in this kind of processes is the involvement in general. So with this kind of process, there is no one actor leading, but it is to have all the actors aligned in a very complex process, whether all of us really need to be aligned in the system and be very convinced that these kind of processes are relevant for us. So the commitment to keep the commitment very high and to keep the attention very high in understanding that this is the cause, this is the challenge, we really need to plant trees, and we will make a successful project only if in 2030 everybody is convinced that the trees and shrubs and this kind of process are relevant. So the collective, the importance of have citizens, institutions, all the partners convincingly and strongly together, it's I think the main challenge of this kind of process. Transdisciplinarity, of course, comes together because if you have this kind of call, you really need to have people from the association, people from the academia, and not just one. One of the achievement of this process is that we are working. So I already mentioned that we have Parco Nord, Parco Agricolo Sud, ERSAF. Most of them are people working from the urban forestry, agricultural sector, agronomic sector, working together with local institutions, with municipalities, working together with us, which is a research institution. We are urban planners and urban designers and architects, and we are working together with people which are expert in communication and marketing, because as well as Federico and WOWNATURE, we are raising money to the cause, so we are working also together for this. And then we work with the social cooperatives, which already have a very different background than us. So these kind of projects are also challenges, but they are beautiful because you don't discuss with people that are working with you, but coming from the same background. But you really have the chance to talk very different languages, but with a unique objective. And so this is for me one of the best ways of tackling the uncertainty that we're living today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Maria Chiara. I saw that there will be already 2 questions. I'm not sure about Pedro because it seems not to be a question. He says, space available and managing the trees like irrigation. But Pedro, do you want to add something more? Probably you didn't complete the question. If you want to add
maybe it was an answer of the initial quiz. Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe yes.
Okay, about the interest. Okay, great. Thank you for signal. There is a question from Edward. It is a great and stimulating project. How far it is on track to reach the goal in 2030, and how will continue after this date?
So so far we are we have more than 400,000 trees planted, and now we are really so we are working together with public and private funds in order to secure new plantations activities, and we will need to reach the target of 3 million trees by 2030, which is still a very big challenge. And in 2030, so the tree canopy, we really hope to increase it by 5%, bringing metropolitan area of Milan to 21%. So it will be great to reach 30% of the tree canopy cover, which is one of the incredible challenges that worldwide it's also recommended, but that means that we really need to plant 10 million trees more. So the idea is after 2030, to my perspective, is really to maintain very high this sense of relevance and urgency of having trees and shrubs and nature in our city. So, and to maintain, it's a huge challenge for all of us. How long do people take care of trees and what happens after that? So Forestami maintains the trees for 5 years. So we guarantee 5 years maintenance. And then it's depending on the ownership of the area. If it is the public land, it's the public land who takes care of the trees after the 5 years. How did you arrive at the figure of 3 million trees? I see a lot of reference to 2 million of trees in tree planting plans, but it's actually necessary. So 3 million trees, it's 5% of the increase of tree canopy cover, which is actually one of the recommendations that also at the European level, they are pushing to have. The 3 million trees, it's also 1 tree for each inhabitant of the metropolitan area. So for the communication strategy, it's also helpful to provide each of us with one challenge, which is very nearby. So to plant and to maintain a tree for each of the citizens also tries to set an engagement in the citizens, which is relevant. And also we measured how many trees were, like in realistic terms, were able to be done in 10 years in the metropolitan area of Milan. In Milan metropolitan area, what is the total land area of your 3 million trees? What size trees are you planting? I don't know which is the total land area for the 3 million trees, in the sense that it really depends on how much we count on the potential and how much we have on the actual available lands. And the available lands, so the one that we sign by contract, it's a continuous and an incremental work. So every day we are discussing with everybody in order to secure lands which are available for plantation campaigns, but it's no figure on what we have. So we really need to work every day on this. What size of trees we are planting? Most of it, it's small, very small trees. So si chiamano piantine forestali, I don't know it in English. The very small ones for 2 reasons. The first one is that we can create ecosystems by connecting small trees and shrubs, which we create a more biodiverse system, and the costs are contained because trees and shrubs are less costly than let's say piante pronto effetto, which are the 25 centimeters in size, which is diameter size, which are much more costly. Also some consideration taken regarding the potential dangers, such as an increased risk of fire. Well, it is urban areas, but it is woodlands, and we have no huge issue on risk, increased risk of fire. So we not more than any other, let's say, green space that each municipality or each city is having in their normal plan. Which measure you have you taken into account for possible ecosystem disservices that could arise from planting trees at such a large scale? Depending on which kind of disservices we are taking note. So if, for instance, is related to the tree species, for instance, we have a selected list of species that we can plant in urban areas. And at the moment we are, and another issue is much more related to whether to gather this large number of trees in the surrounding area. What we see is that we really hope to increase the number of insects and animals that can possibly arrive in the metropolitan area of Milan together with the trees and shrubs. But we haven't, let's say, enlisted large disservices for the kind of trees and shrubs that we plant, because in the end it's a huge number of trees that we plant. But if you consider how much the city is urbanized, the city, I intend the metropolitan area of Milan, the imbalance of it is still against the nature. So it's very hard to have a balance in which the disservices are so high, because the nature is incredibly present in our city. Are there any evaluation done regarding following rate and scale of effectiveness of planting this much trees so far? I should read it again. Are there any evaluation done regarding following the rate and effectiveness of planting this much trees so far? So which kind of ecosystem services the 3 million trees can provide in the metropolitan? I really hope I understand this as a question. So Federico, se tu lo intenderesti così.
Yes, I believe it's more related to the positive effects, let's say, on heat island or pollution.
For us, it's so at the moment we are working very much at a small scale. So to see at the small scale level which are the benefits, and then we're planning to have a tree canopy cover in 2026 to see some of the effects of what we've been doing so far, to see if it is a positive rate or not, because you really need to remember that we are planting, but at this scale we don't know how many trees are lost also by private effects. So if somebody in the end decides to cut off a forest in private land, and that is counted within the tree canopy cover, because we are not counting only the public trees, we're planting all the trees and shrubs which are in the metropolitan area of Milan. This is a balance that we really need to face. So it's the effort that collaboratively and collectively we will do. Also, we are trying to understand the impact of insects and pollinators, for instance, happening in our land, and to see if the kind of species that they plant and the position that in which we have trees and shrubs are having benefits on our biodiversity. How much do the seeding you plant cost? Do you buy them from private sector? It really depends. So the seedlings are it's a very small cost. Sorry, I lost the second part. Can I go back? I don't know.
No, I will read it for you. How much do the seedlings you plant cost, and do you buy them from private sector?
Okay, so we buy them mainly from the public sector, so Vivaio di Curno, ERSAF, which is the regional forestry seedling from certified forest, and then from mainly from them, and then from some parts from the private sector. How to monitor canopy cover fluctuation due to redevelopment of construction project, how to protect those tree planting from being removed later down to the road. This is one of the biggest questions that everybody have. So because nobody is taking care of nobody in the sense that particularly in the outer land, so you have trees which are protected because they are maybe monumental trees also on even if they are in private land. But if you are in the outskirts and you cut off trees, it's very hard to monitor this kind of cutting of the trees. We really hope that the tree canopy cover is one of the elements in which provides some kind of more precise information, so that in the end you know that your project and the collective effort to maintain the trees has been working or not. How do we ensure that we plant the right species for the future climate condition, taking into account the prediction? Well, this is a $1 million question, in the sense that, so I'm not an expert in trees and shrubs. My expertise is in urban planning. So I repeat what I understand and from colleagues which are much more expert than me. We don't know what is going to be exactly in the next years. What we know is that it's going to be more harsh climate, more drought climate will be even in the Pianura Padana and in our climate conditions. What we also know is that the pattern of, for instance, trees are migrating, so they're moving farther north, and they take longer than us because they don't have legs, but the path is going towards north, and we are planting species that 30, 40 years ago, they were not here, and now they're adjusting very well to our climate, which is changing. On the other, so what our experts do is that they experiment of new plants, and then they see if these kind of trees are adjusting to the climate, and not just to the climate, but also we have a number of increasing issues of pathogens and fungi, which are also creating issues in our environment. So it's a very complicated matter of balancing the species, the climate, and the different pathogens which are adjusting also to the climate. So we are now working, for instance, we're monitoring, we as researchers, we're monitoring our interventions. So we know which kind of trees and shrubs we planted, when, which season was that, how many waterings we did, when was that, and this is helpful for in order to understand why we have some mortality rate, and this is for us an important information to provide to all the experts and also to the municipalities in order to better do the job of maintenance in the longer term. Yes, but we also know which species have a great aptitude and are more resistant. We use these species, we use their potential to reduce future risks. Generally, so we know, so it's, again, I'm not an expert, but there is a huge debate between autochthonous plants and non-autochthonous plants. And so there are, for instance, Regione Lombardia, Comune di Milano, they have the list of trees and shrubs that you can plant. So first, you cannot plant banana because it's more resilient. So it's not just this matter. And then also to create an ecosystem which is balanced within the ecosystem itself. So you don't plant only one species to create a woodland, you create an ecosystem. So you really need to mix the number of trees and plants all together in order to create a balanced ecosystem for a complex woodland system. What we know is that some trees and shrubs are more resistant, and we know that some other, which are also maybe recurring in our landscape, now are under threat. So what we are doing now is to study which are the species which are more resistant and which species are suffering. So that is what we are doing at the moment. I really hope I answered to this question. But this species selection, it's a very, very delicate matter. And also it's to be done also with the ecoregions. It's to be done with the local characteristics of the lands, because you can choose. So one of the other main challenges that we see is that you have maybe the right tree and you have the right season, so you watering, but if the soil, for instance, is very poor, then it's another matter. And in the metropolitan area of Milan, the soil is usually very poor because it's not so fertile as the agricultural land. So it's a very complex balance among many, many different issues.
Thank you very much to Maria Chiara and to Federico for the interesting presentation. We are perfectly on time. Thank you to all for your very active and reactive participation. Hope to see all of you in the next meeting that will be on the 26th of January, same time, to present other 2 case studies from Spain and Romania. So hope to see all of you as active as today. So thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention.